whoa, 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 whoa. Get out the way, get out the way, get out the way, yeah. Yeah. Get out the way, get the fuck up out my way, yeah. Yeah. Win, 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 win.
Oh, what's up? This is MST episode 19. Week 4 power rankings coming out this week. Really, I guess you could say week 5. We've got some other topics we're going to start off with. We're going to talk about Bell reporting to the Steelers week 7, Patrick Mahomes, Eric Reid, and may throw in some little bit extra, but those are the main topics. So let's go ahead and get into it. First thing first, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. And, you know, there's still a little bit of doubt over what he will end up being. But I think at this point, you can't argue against the fact that the guy has it. He has it. He has the it that we thought Jameis Winston would have. He has the it that we thought Andrew Luck would have. He has the it that we've been waiting to see out of the next premier quarterback since Aaron Rodgers. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, I don't know if any other younger quarterback, obviously a Cam Newton, even still Cam Newton, Patrick Mahomes is a better passer than Cam Newton right now. That's how much I think of Patrick Mahomes. Some of his decision making. Obviously, I will stand by this that we still need to see an entire football year and a half. So what I mean is we have to see him this entire year, and then next year give him 8 games before we really crown him as, you know, I would even say a top 10 quarterback, top 5, especially top 5, but top 10. I don't feel like you deserve to be a top 10 quarterback if you haven't played a full year of football. So that's just me, because we all know the NFL, the talent levels are marginal. What makes the biggest difference in the NFL is how well are you prepared, how well can you play when, you know, coaches, experts, these are the best coaches in the world who get paid millions of dollars to dissect your game and find your weaknesses. How well can you adjust to those people who have seen you play for 16, 20 games, and they've picked and found out, identified your weaknesses, and they take advantage of that. And then, of course, when you get loaded with more and more information, how well can you maintain all that information and still make those good plays? Because right now, Mahomes is making all the plays because it's simple for him. It's very simple. And as you can see, he's slowing down. You know, from the first 2 weeks to the last 2 weeks, he's definitely slowed down. Denver showed that there's a way to stop him. And, I mean, let's just be honest. The Chiefs they've had some lucky breaks, and you know, there's some games that they could have lost, but I mean, right now they're sitting at 4-0 and on top of the world, and a lot of that is completely due to Patrick Mahomes' play. So I mean, one of those breaks we saw in Denver last Monday, when the play clock went down to 0. However, I will remind you of this: they had a 2nd and 30. A 2nd and 30, and Patrick Mahomes threw a pass for 23 yards. The very next play, he had another pass for 33 yards. So don't act like, you know, he couldn't have converted that first down had they stopped the play, moved them back 5 more yards. Like, that would have made a huge difference. But he's been very fortunate, and he's made the plays when he had the opportunity to play. So I give him credit as being the best young quarterback right now. But I'm not going to put him in the top 10 as of right now. On the phone, you have anything that you want to say about Patrick Mahomes' play thus far?
Patrick Mahomes is definitely playing the best football of a young quarterback we've seen in a while. I mean, he has all the tools around him. He has a good young running back, one of the best receivers in Tyreek Hill. He has the weapons around him to be one of the top quarterbacks coming in the next coming years. But then again, Andy Reid, he starts pretty good, and he's going to have a slump throughout the middle of the season. So I think the Chiefs are going to kind of fall down a little bit, but I think they'll pick it back up toward the end of the season. But as far as Mahomes, he's definitely proven he could be, if this was his first year playing, the rookie of the year right now, I would say. But Mahomes is definitely going to be a top 10, top 5 QB within the next couple of years if he can consistently keep this up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one other thing that you mentioned is that, I mean, if you really take in consideration the collective talent, I would say the Chiefs have more you can say equal or more talent than the Steelers do at this moment. And that's strictly speaking from the fact that um, obviously Tyreek Hill is more of a burner. He's going to take the lid off the defense, okay? Pittsburgh doesn't have that. And that's what you're seeing. It's not Le'Veon Bell that's hurting the Steelers. It's Martavis Bryant. Martavis Bryant was the opposite of Antonio Brown, who would take the defense and push those safeties back. Not only does that give AB room to operate, but it also gave room for Le'Veon Bell. That's what you're seeing with Tyreek Hill. And then, of course, they have Travis Kelce in the middle of the field who's doing damage. And Sammy Watkins isn't no chump either. He's a former first-round top 10 pick as well. So the fact that they have a speed burner who can also run a lot of routes and can, his speed you can use. He's faster than Bryant, so you can use him on reverses. But they have Mahomes who's mobile. Obviously, Ben is not mobile like Mahomes is. And then they still have Kareem Hunt, who's just as good of a pass catcher coming out the backfield as Le'Veon Bell. And he's just as good of a runner, if you ask me. The difference is maybe a little bit of the offensive line. But the Chiefs have a top offense, and they can go very far. The only difficulty they're going to run in is that they're going to have to score 30 to 40 points every game. And when teams have 10 games, like I said, 6 to 10 games, a film of Patrick Mahomes, we're going to see him slow down. He's not going to throw these 6 touchdown games all the time or 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. And as you saw in Denver, they had a couple breaks that broke their way. And it's a game of inches. It's a game of inches, and they were able to get away with the win. So, all right, so moving on to Le'Veon Bell. This is going to be a quick segment. I feel like we've beaten this horse to death. Let's just get to the point in that Le'Veon was hurt. He was hurt and he was injured. That's why, out of nowhere, he just didn't show up for week 1 when he said he would, because he didn't know when he'll be healed up. About 2 weeks ago, we finally saw him, like a Where's Waldo. We finally saw him in Miami on a jet ski.
So while all of that was going on, Le'Veon Bell continues to give back $853,000 a week. And today, TMZ caught him on jet skis in Miami, demanding that he wants to be paid. The Steelers were set to pay him $14.5 million for this year and then let him go. Still no word on when he intends to show up to gain his full year of service.
Indicating that he was finally healed up, because typically if you're hurt, you shouldn't be on a jet ski. Then and we saw he was kind of overweight. Now, I think over the last 2 weeks, he's gotten in shape. He's finishing up his conditioning, and that's why he said he has an anticipated date to return week 7, which then gives him another full practice that he can practice during the bye week to return to the Steelers the following week. That's the most logical conclusion I can come up with, because otherwise he could have just said, yeah, I'm just not going to play. I'm going to come somewhere around week 7, week 10, whenever I feel like, whatever. Just name a week, and it's like, okay, fine then. There's no big deal. And that will indicate there's no animosity, as he has already shown that if you read the reports, he said, no, I don't have any hard feelings through the Steelers. I don't think they really want to trade me. I think it's just, the moment. And I would still like to sign a long-term deal with the Steelers at the end of the season. You can say that's PR talk, but if he was really wanting to keep that PR talk and keep his slate and his image clean, then he could have, once again, just said, yeah, week 10, week 7, week 5, I'm coming back. But he didn't, because he was hurt and he didn't know exactly when. And he didn't want to show up hurt, because that's going to leak out and that's going to be bad. It's just going to make him look really, really bad. So they did it as best as they could. That's why it looks so messy, because Le'Veon Bell was hurt, but he's all healed up now and ready to go. Okay, so the other big headline this week, besides the actual football games, was Eric Reid signing with the Panthers. And, I think this is a good move for both parties. The Panthers really needed safety help, secondary help. They have a good piece in that corner, number 24. I can't really recall his name, but now you add a top 10 safety in Eric Reid. This is going to turn the Panthers into legit contenders for the Super Bowl. I mean, I was already picking them that they could vie for the title with the Saints, the NFC's title. The Saints are good, and you'll see how highly I think of the Saints in the ranking up ahead. But I still think the Panthers can beat the Saints. We'll see what happens, and I think they have a matchup later on this season, so it's not upcoming. So add Eric Reid to stabilize that back end, and with their good running defense, I think the Panthers can go as far as Cam's play takes them. Now, at this point, it's just a matter of Cam being consistent and not turning the ball over, be efficient, and get points on the board. And, already, when they get in the red zone, Cam's so good at running the football in. If they can get in there, they're going to be hard to stop in the red zone. They're going to be hard to stop in general. They're going to be a team that can put up 30 points per game easily, along with getting those turnovers with Luke. So watch out for the Panthers. They're going to be a team I think is going to be on a roll when they come out of this bye week. What they're doing, let's go ahead and jump into these rankings. As you see here, I have the Rams, Chiefs, Jaguars, Saints, Ravens, and Bears. This top six, I think is fairly good. I'm very confident in this, more so than the bottom six. But this top six, I mean, the Saints went on the road and showed that they still can win on the road and outside that dome. It's not cold yet, but very impressive win at the Giants. And then the Ravens went on the road and beat the Steelers, which I would put them higher than the Saints, but the Saints actually were a playoff team last year, and we know what Drew Brees can do. Flacco and company, you can't play around with Flacco and company. But if Flacco, if he decides to have one of his days, then the Ravens still just a notch below the Saints. And then of course the Chicago Bears, that monstrous midway monster defense, they just bulldozed everybody. Really, they could be 4-0 and they could be third on this list had they beaten the Packers. But with that loss to the Packers, and then of course, outside of that, they haven't really beat anybody that good. The Buccaneers just came off a Monday night loss to the Steelers, and on the road in Chicago, very difficult place to play with pressure on them. I did not expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to even show up that much, and that's what he didn't do. He looked like Ryan Fitzpatrick again, and then Jameis came in, threw a couple picks, and that game was over before halftime. So they haven't really been tested that much. They played, their good wins have come at home, and they struggled on the road to the Cardinals. So still not very, I won't say overly impressed, but they do crack the top six, and I think that's well deserved. Moving on, we have the Panthers at 7. They kind of stay stationary since they didn't play this week. We don't want to say good or bad. The Bengals could have jumped the Panthers, but overall the Panthers still just beat the Bengals. So I was like, okay, let's bring it back a little bit. And of course the Falcons really had that game. Falcons should have beaten the Bengals. Bengals got a little bit lucky in that matchup with the whole tuck rule. I personally thought that should have been a fumble. The guy, Andy Dalton, had pump faked it, and he was bringing it back in. There actually is no more tuck rule, so that should have been a fumble. And he just dropped the ball. And they called. Actually, I think his arm was getting pulled, so it was still forced. It should have been a fumble, and I can't recall who recovered it. But all I know is what it did is it saved Cincinnati a timeout. It stopped the ball, and they didn't lose 10 yards on that play. So that was a huge call that the referees botched, in my opinion. Moving on to 9, the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans come in, and they're 3-1. The Titans are 3-1 after beating the Philadelphia Eagles in overtime. I expected this game to be very close. I didn't want to pick the Titans because they just weren't that trustworthy to me, but they pulled it out and they beat the Eagles. I know, like I said, if that was a primetime game, they probably crapped the bed. But since it's a 1 o'clock game, the Titans played very well at home at 1 o'clock. And they took out the Eagles. Then you have the Redskins here only because the Eagles lost and they're in front of the division. They had an off week as well. Sometimes if you don't play, it is better than losing, right? And we have the Eagles at 2-2. The Packers could have made it in here at 10, but the Redskins, like I said, just beat the Packers and they had the week off. So, 2-1-1 is not better than 2-1, and the Skins just beat the Packers. So had to put the Skins up at 10. Eagles, of course, get the respect of defending champions, and really that was a toss-up game against the Tennessee Titans. They lost in overtime. Not giving them too much fault there. Then, of course, the Miami Dolphins, still 3-1. Ugly loss to the Patriots, but they are who we thought they were.
Or who we thought they were. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. They are who we thought they were.
and we let them off the hook.
Yep. They are who we thought they are. If you want to crown their ass, then crown them. But they are who we thought they were. It's tough because, it's a week-by-week thing. It's just a hot and cold situation. I'm not saying that the Dolphins are still better than the Patriots, but the Patriots have 2 really bad losses on their resume, and the Dolphins have 1. So, do we expect anybody to go into New England and win? No, we don't. I give them the benefit. I won't say benefit of the doubt. They still are who we thought they were. Same thing with the Redskins. They're going to come down. They're going to lose some games, and this list is going to even out once we get a larger sample size. But at the moment, the Steelers aren't playing that well at the moment. The Patriots still aren't that impressive, and they're still only going to beat the Colts. So we'll see how everybody else does. So the Patriots still might not even make the list after this week. It depends. If they destroy the Colts, then that might help them get back in the setting. Tomorrow we have Thursday night football, Patriots and Colts. And let's just make this short. The Patriots will win. We know that. And let's move on. I don't want to put too much analysis in this just because it's the Patriots versus the Colts, and we know what typically happens. And, let's just be honest. It could turn into a shootout. That's the only thing I will say. But, Kendall, what do you think?
There's 2 running backs that I'm excited to see in Sony Michel, and hopefully the Colts give the starting role to Nyheim Hines, who's been proving that he's an athletic running back, can run the ball, and catch the ball in the backfield. I'm really excited to see those 2 go head-to-head. But other than that, I think the Patriots should take care of the Colts pretty easily.
Green Bay plays at Detroit. That'll be an easy win. Of course, Jacksonville, Kansas City, regardless of whoever wins that game, they're both going to stay up. Atlanta at Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh beats Atlanta, of course, I'm biased towards them. I'll be itching to get them back into the top 12. Baltimore. If Baltimore lose to Cleveland, heck, I might drop them out the top 12 completely. Miami's at Cincinnati. So a loss to whoever loses between Miami and Cincinnati, whoever loses that game is probably going to get dropped out because Cincinnati's still hovering around 9. And if you lose to Miami at home, that's embarrassing. I'm sorry, that's embarrassing. So Miami, if you win that, you'll stay in. Cincinnati, you'll drop out. And of course, if you lose to Cincinnati, you're definitely dropping out if you're already the 12th team. So there's going to be a spot for somebody to jump up and nab that last spot. Washington plays at New Orleans on Monday Night Football, so that'll be another good game. And if Washington loses that, they'll probably drop out the top 12 as well. Philly, who does Philly play? Philadelphia plays Minnesota. So we have a lot of good games coming up on the schedule that we'll preview in the next episode. Actually, I will say this, the quarter report card is coming out next. And then I'm going to have to try to get another episode before Sunday so that we can get our predictions out. But that's all we have for this episode. And if you guys disagree with the power rankings, drop me a line, drop me a comment, email, Twitter. Twitter handles down here at the bottom of the screen. Say something, I'll put you on I'll put you on the blog. We can debate it, have at it, and we'll let the world decide who's right. So let me know. But all right, guys, peace.
Hail to the Redskins. Hail victory. Brave